time, please make sure your cell phones are on silent. We will welcome Ryan Bamford to the podium, Doris Griffin, Coach Verdi, and then all three will speak for a question and answer. We'll also have a couple of our student athletes available for media after our formal press conference. Director of Athletics, Ryan Bamford.
Thank you, Molly. Good morning and welcome to the Champion Center here on the campus of the University of Massachusetts. It's a great day, an exciting day as we celebrate the appointment of our next women's basketball coach, Tory Verdi. It's always nice to have folks in this building, the John F. Kennedy Champion Center for UMass basketball, a special building for us as we build our men's and women's basketball programs. We've been in it for 7 months, and it's already been a game changer for those two programs. Really excited about today and as I said, the celebration of this hire. Coach Verdi is somebody that has really separated himself and is someone that I think can take us to heights we haven't seen in women's basketball here at the University of Massachusetts. As we concluded our process, our search process, I think it's important to give thanks to some folks that were an integral part of us getting to today. First, our leadership, President Meehan and our Chancellor, Kumbal Subaswamy. Both are in Boston today at Board of Trustees meetings and send their best. Was in conversation with them throughout the process, talking about where we were headed and the arrival at Coach Verdi as our next head coach, and their support has been outstanding. We had 3 members of our athletics council that I believe are all here today. It's put my eyeballs on all of them, but I think they're all here. And I'd like to thank each of them. All faculty, staff members, faculty members here on campus. Rebecca Spencer, our faculty athletic representative for the athletics department. Thank you, Rebecca. Pat Vittum, our chair of our athletics council, and Neff Walker, an assistant professor in the McCormick School of Sport Management and in the Eisenberg School of Management. Thanks to Rebecca, Pat, and Neff for your contributions in this process. Our athletic staff that had a role in this process as well. Derek Kellogg, obviously our men's basketball coach, he had the greatest job because he got to tour people through the facility, any of the candidates that came in, and speak with them about where we were headed on the basketball side. And I know he had a nice conversation with Tory when he came to visit. Kevin Wisman in HR, a big part of the behind-the-scenes work that we did, as well as 2 folks in our academic unit, Pete Montague and Matt Comer, who met with each candidate and gave a good outline, a good framework for what we were doing in the classroom to our women's basketball candidates. Also, a thank you to our PR and communication staff, in particular Molly O'Mara, who's done an outstanding job in just her first year at the university. And then our women's basketball day-to-day contact, John Sinnott. I'd like to thank him as well for his work this year with our women's basketball program. Also be remiss if I didn't say thank you to our women's basketball staff, in particular Jen McCauley, Yolanda Griffith, Chris Wilgus, and Candace Walker for their work in this transition. It was a month-long transition. They really kept our student athletes engaged in the academic piece, as well as the work on the basketball court and in the community, and so I'd like to thank them for their work in this transition. And finally, probably one of the most important thanks I can give is to Doris Griffin, who led this search for us. Doris has been here just shy of a year now and has proven to be an absolute asset to our athletic department. She hates when I do this, when I give her any public praise, but I need to tell you how impressive she was, and I had supreme confidence in her through this process, and she lived up to it and exceeded it, actually, in many ways. Doris is organized, extremely calculating and strategic in her vision and plan for where this basketball program can go. She's got tremendous reach in the women's basketball landscape across the country. Folks that are in and around basketball know who Doris is, and she's seen success at places she's been as a player and as an administrator. She knows what it looks like, and she knows how to get there. And so she was really instrumental and taking those blueprints for success and sharing them with our candidates. And that was something I think that really, in talking to Coach Verdi, I think helped recruit him to this job and recruit others that had interest in us and the university. And it's a university that sells itself, there's no doubt. But Doris was a big part of helping us sell our vision and making sure that we found a coach that aligned with that vision in the right way. So what I'd like to do now is actually invite Doris up to the microphone and to give her observations. She did all the heavy lifting for this search, so I wanted her to give her observations of this search process, and then we'll introduce our next head coach. Doris?
Thank you, Ryan. Good morning, everyone. This has been an intense, enlightening, and rewarding process. And speaking to the search process for hiring our next women's basketball coach, we moved with strategic purpose, committed to a few things. We were committed to proactively and aggressively building a talented, a competitive, and a diverse candidate pool. We were committed to initiating a process of building a community around our women's basketball program by conducting an inclusive interview process. And I know Ryan spoke to those in the department and those across campus who were involved in this process, but to Dr. Spencer, Dr. Walker, Pat, Matt, Pete, Derek, Kevin, and Tom, I want to echo Ryan's sentiment regarding our gratitude for your involvement and investment in this process. We can say it now, I know I drove you crazy with the emails and the instructions and the dynamic scheduling, so I appreciate your participation and investment in this process. Now, most importantly, we were committed to our student athletes, our current student athletes and our prospective student athletes, and hiring an individual who would create a culture committed to conditions for our student athletes to excel both academically and athletically while here at UMass. You know, I say that it was an enlightening and a rewarding process, and that I got to spend the last month speaking to why the University of Massachusetts really is a destination choice for talented coaches and for, most importantly, gifted and talented students. With all due respect to our 20 sports programs and Coach Carville, who has experienced a phenomenal couple of weeks for men's ice hockey, with passionate conviction, I delivered messages regarding the fact that I think that we have all of the ingredients in place to be a women's basketball institution. Now, I say that in jest to Ryan, but I mean it with sincere. It's a sincere statement. As we looked at our program, our women's basketball program, and where it is today, and where we think we can go as a women's basketball program, we looked at the following characteristics, competencies, and skills. We wanted a leader with high integrity. We wanted someone with head coaching experience. We wanted a dynamic recruiter with a proven track record. We wanted someone with a high basketball IQ and an understanding and a knowledge of developing fundamental skills. Wanted someone with an appreciation and an understanding of women's basketball in this region. Then we wanted somebody with a knack for building a community around a women's basketball program. You know, I've spent the last 39 days talking about UMass women's basketball, and no, I have not been counting the days. And one of the things that you hope when you engage in discussions with prospective candidates and you engage in discussions with people who know the candidates, you hope for some common themes to emerge. And that was the case in this process with Coach Verdi. It was he's first class, he's a competitor, he's thoughtful, he pays an incredible amount of attention to detail, he is a connector, and he's a first class man. So we're happy, I'm happy to be here today. Ryan, thank you for the opportunity to lead this search. Coach Verdi, the Verdi family, welcome to UMass. I'm so excited about the future of our program under your leadership.
Thank you again for leading this search and ending in a great spot. And I think you don't want to hear from me much anymore. You want to hear from our new women's basketball coach. I will tell you just my quick observations about Tory and what he brings to us. extremely passionate head coach, passionate about what basketball and athletics can do for young people at a top 30 public research university, the power of that as it complements the academic experience. The success that he's had at all levels was really something that stood out to us as we looked for our next leader. He's intense in his desire to change the lives of the women in this program and in the programs that he's been associated with. And that was really powerful and important to us. He's a heck of a recruiter. He's going to bring the best and brightest to the University of Massachusetts. He's great in the community, extremely visible. As we did our homework, this is something that was thematic. It was something that everybody talked about, was his sense of pride in the community and how visible he was in building his program and a community-based program. When he came to campus and when we spoke with him, he really did a nice job to articulate his vision for success. And he did his homework on the University of Massachusetts, on our athletic program and our basketball program, as well as the A-10, and where he thought we fit and how we could have a level of success that we haven't had in the past. And last but not least, it was a great fit for us because he's a New England kid. He's from this area. He understands that the power of this brand of the university, and he appreciates being from this area. And honestly, it was evident in the way that he coaches, the passion that he has, and the ways that he builds a program were something that we really wanted to make sure that he brought to the University of Massachusetts. So it's my pleasure to welcome Tory, his wife Heather, their kids Tyler, Avery, and Braden. Welcome, guys, to the University of Massachusetts and the Amherst community. We're excited to have you here. As you finish up school over the next couple months, we'll get you here this summer. And for our 11th head coach of women's basketball, ladies and gentlemen, Tory Verdi.
I'm not sure if you heard that comment from my son. He didn't think that jersey wouldn't fit me. Obviously, Coach Kellogg, we talked about playing, 3-on-3 during noon. I guess I got to get my butt out there. But wow, thank you, Ryan and Doris too. And I don't know how much I owe you for all those comments that you said about me, but obviously today's being day one, I'm in debt already. So I appreciate everything that you guys have said about me personally. Well, good morning. And first of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Chancellor Suba Swami, Director of Athletics Ryan Bamford, and Senior Associate Director of Athletics Doris Griffin, and the rest of the athletic administration for this unbelievable opportunity to be the next women's basketball coach here at the University of Massachusetts. I was once told that UMass was a really smart school with really smart people. Well, that's obviously true, because those smart people made a really smart hire when they chose me. All kidding aside, I'm very thankful for this opportunity, and I'm so excited about the future of our women's basketball program. The last 4 days have been a whirlwind for my family and myself. And speaking of my family, I'd like to introduce them all to you. So if you would stand up and be recognized. My wife, Heather. My children, Tyler, Avery, and Braden. Also here with me today is my mother, Beverly. And lastly, my brother, Todd, and his family. Thank you for your support. So I have to share with you the one question that I received the most in the last 10 days. Why UMass? Why UMass? My answer was, why not UMass? I truly believe that we can win here and win big. But in order to do that, and to make that happen, we've got to take care of all the little things and control the controllables. We will no longer get outworked and get outplayed. However, we will play hard, we will play smart, we will play together, and we will have a lot of fun. And when you do all that, you will have success. Our team is going to be fun to watch. We're going to be fast and furious, and we're going to dictate both offensively and defensively for 40 minutes. And in the end, we will win. The culture that surrounds this program will change. Expectations will be on the rise. Accountability will be apparent. And a winning attitude will be instilled. Our team's image will be unselfish, tough, hard-nosed, disciplined, prepared, composed, and lastly, relentless. It's time to gain respect from the Atlantic 10 Conference and the rest of the country. It's time to win and win big. So again, I appreciate the warm welcome, and I can't wait to visit with all of you. But first, I got to roll up my sleeves and get to work. Thank you for being here today.
We'll start with the Q&A portion of today's press conference. Johnson is in our audience, so if you have a question, please wait for the microphone, and please introduce yourself to Coach Verdi before your question.
Hey, Coach. Matt Votor. Ryan talked about you doing your homework and knowing and learning about UMass. What did you learn about UMass, and what are some of the things that are kind of things you can address quickly that maybe weren't the way you'd like them to, that need to be addressed pretty fast?
Well, I think the first thing is that obviously we're an unbelievable institution, and we could obviously recruit to that. The first thing you look at is you look at the championship center. I mean, this is a wow factor for us. I mean, just bringing teams and players here just to walk through this place. I don't have to say anything about recruiting anymore.
Sure.
I mean, this place sells itself, and I'm excited about that. We can go out and recruit the best players in the country because now we have something to sell.
Tory, Dan Malone from MassLive.com. I wonder if you could just kind of touch a little bit on kind of the timeline of how you got in touch with Doris and kind of leading to you sitting here at this table talking to us now.
Yeah, sure. I think when the job was first publicized, we had a mutual friend and reached out to her and talked about Doris a little bit. Our mutual friend had the utmost respect for Doris and reached out to her, and we had a conversation. And to be honest with you, it was, as you put it, dynamic. We had a dynamic conversation. And it was. It was about just two people being passionate about women's basketball and wanting to do something very special. And I think after the course of 45 minutes to an hour, we both agreed that, if we collectively work together, we could do something really special.
Coach, Andrew's here with the Daily Collegian. This is a team that struggled for a few years, and in the past couple of years has really turned things around, and even at the end of last year, strung together a few good wins before the A-10 tournament. How can you build on that momentum moving forward?
Well, the first thing we're going to make sure that we take care of our student athletes in the program, and we're going to utilize and maximize their strengths while we develop their weaknesses. We're going to play a certain style of play, I think, which will maximize and give us an opportunity to, get ahead a little bit. And what I mean by that is defensively, we're going to get up and we're going to pressure. We're going to try to get more possessions offensively and so forth. But at the end of the day, we need to go out and we need to recruit. We need to recruit some of the best players that we can make an impact in the Atlantic 10. But we're going to do it the right way. We're going to pour the foundation. We're going to let it settle, and we're going to take our time.
Do you feel like, from what you've seen, you have players that can fit that system right away? And do you try to put the system in right away, or do you build with what you've got for players right now and then recruit to that system for down the road?
Well, the first thing is, and I met with the players last night, and I do want to say I was, very, very surprised with the eagerness and the want to that they have. They want to be great. It was stated several times. And so I'm excited about those players that we have in our program. And, together, collectively, they can fit the system that we're going to implement. And I also told them that they're going to have to be in the best shape of their lives as well in order to fit that system. But they're hungry, and they have a want to, and together we're going to get there.
Adam O'Coin from the Daily Collegian. So bringing a new coach in is never easy for some players. It's a tough transition period. How are you going to go about making the adjustment period easier for your players?
Well, I think the first thing that you do is you got to make sure that you reach them and you spend time with them, getting to know them as a person. And I think there's a lot of times coaches forget about that. They're so worried because this is a business. But the most important thing is building a rapport, building a relationship, with those players. And then it's about getting to know them, understanding what makes them tick, and then getting on the same page with them. So I think that is the bridge to the ultimate transition.
Tory, in your opening remarks, you talked about taking respect back for UMass and the A10, and that's maybe something that's been lacking a little bit recently. What is in your mind? What does that look like for UMass?
Well, being competitive right from the start, going out there, and I talked about there's a lot of things in this game that you can't control, and number one is your work ethic. Getting out on the floor. We're not going to get outworked. You look at all the 2020 loose balls, when we're going to be diving on the floor. We're going to take care of all those little things. So that's a start.
Ryan, when you made the decision to make a change and what does success here look like? If you squint your eyes and try to picture what your hopes are for this program, what does it look like?
That's a good question, Matt. When we made the change, Therese and I spoke over the course of the year, and really proud of where our program was at the end of the year and the way that our women in the program responded the last month of the season, and thought that was a great foundation for where we could go. And at the end of the day, and Tory and Therese and I have spoken about this, it's not unlike the other 20 sports. We want to build a program. It's not about building a team year to year. It's not about having success one year and wondering if you're going to have success the next year. And so his answer about building that foundation and having those elements in place for long-term success, I think we've got a lot of those in place here now. And now it's just realizing those expectations. And I don't think there's anybody who has higher expectations for this program than the head coach that we just hired. I think Tory, he could speak to that. He articulated that. He said that here in his comments today. And we want to do everything we can as an administration to help him get there. And in a perfect world, if we're asking him to recruit, develop the women in his program on the court, in the classroom, in the community, and give him a great experience. If he's doing those three things with his staff as well as he can, the wins are going to come. And they're going to come for years. And so I think we've got now the opportunity to realize some of those expectations with this hire.
Tory, you mentioned being in the community. What are some of the things you've done before being out in the community, and you have some ideas already?
Absolutely. The biggest thing that we have to do with our program is get out into the community, outreach, get into the elementary schools, develop a rapport, develop relationships with people out in the community. We can't ask them to come to our game if we don't develop those relationships. So that's number one. Now I expect our players that we will be in the elementary schools. We will tutor kids. We will have a Read to Achieve program. But you can bet we're going to spend a ton of time within the community, and we're going to give them every reason to come watch us play.
George Miller from the Greenfield Recorder. Tory, welcome.
Thank you.
In terms of recruiting efforts, you talked about bringing the best and the brightest athletes into the university and trying to cast as wide a net, I suppose, as you can in that effort. how much of a priority do you consider it to focus on Massachusetts athletes, New England athletes, and keep them close to home for their college career?
That's our number one priority. Right now, in the class of 2017, we have 3 top 50 players in the country. So you can bet the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to reach out to them and then give them every reason to come to the University of Massachusetts. When we recruit these players, the first thing is, you look at the history of the program, there's so much that can be done here. And I'm going to tell them that they're going to have the opportunity to be a trailblazer, to be a pioneer, and do something that's never been done before. Sure, you could go to another school, you could go to Syracuse, you could go to St. John's, but they've won there. They've done something special. Now's the time to come here and do something that's never been done before. But we start within the state of Massachusetts, and then we work our way out.
Dries, I wonder if you could, in your process, I'm sure you've talked to a whole bunch of coaches. I wonder if you could just kind of touch upon how, what you learned in taking a closer look at the coaching landscape and how that kind of helped narrow your focus on Tory being the right one.
Like I said, one of the most important things, or the most exciting thing about this process was I had an opportunity to speak to this institution, the leadership here and the infrastructure that's in place. It was good because I was able to tell our story. One of the questions that I received several times throughout the course of this process is, what have been the barriers? And I think that ultimately it's come down to leadership. And I spoke to the characteristics and the qualities that we were looking for in someone, but it was a dynamic recruiter, a connector, a builder, a visionary leader. And that's what Tory was able to express throughout this process, and why he was a successful candidate through our search.
Teresa, were there things as a former player yourself that you could look at and see and try to look for in a coach just to get a feel for, is this somebody that you'd like playing for, or is this somebody whose characteristics lead to winning?
Now, you better say yes.
I'm going to go to the reason why I was thankful for the opportunity that I was given this summer to join UMass. And as I talked about the opportunity here, I could sell it with passionate conviction because I bought into the same thing. So I used some Ryanisms, if you will, throughout the process. And when he's speaking to his vision and what we're capable of realizing here because of this great institution, but it was easy because I just bought into what I think we're capable of doing here, and I live it every day, and I believe in the way in which we're trying to do things here. So, not being too far removed, yes, this is a place that I would come and compete, and I would come and compete for the likes of a Coach Verdi.
During that dynamic conversation that you guys spoke of, was there something that he said or some point that he made that kind of the light bulb went off that said that you hope that this is the guy?
It was an initial conversation, so you don't know how much preparation people are going to put in at that point in time, but I got off the phone and immediately I connected with Brian shortly thereafter, and what impressed me about Tory is how intentional he was about his preparation, how thorough and how thoughtful he was. An incredible amount of detail. We talked about his emphasis on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. He leaves no stone unturned, and it's the detail and the preparation that really separated him in this process.
Tory, you're here now. What's kind of the next step? What's the timeline moving forward from here?
To get some sleep, first thing, and get something to eat. Just connecting with the student athletes that are here right now, visiting with them, hearing their stories, and spending that time. Taking care of what we have right now, and then moving out and moving forward, continuing to communicate and talk to the incoming freshmen. We have 5 freshmen coming in as well. So we got to take care of, in-house first. There's a lot of work to be done, moving forward. But my initial is to take care of our student athletes, and then hiring the staff. We'll work on that within the next couple of weeks. But I'm going to, obviously, talk to the current staff that's here. I'm eager to visit with them here today, and then move forward.
Any further questions for Coach, Dries, or Ryan? Thank you all very much for being here today.